Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic Sunday so far. Let's see what we have in the chat. We have Catman, we have Caleb, Legacy, Sam, Rockets, Caden, Indiana, Severe Weather Alert, Brandon, Misty, Cameron, Lily, Brian, Jessica, Phoenix, JD, Kyle, Severe Weather Alert, Pete, and everyone else who is in the stream that I may have missed or may not be chatting. Glad to have you in here, Darian. Let's see who else. I definitely didn't welcome everyone, so I apologize if I missed you, but welcome to the stream. Glad to have you in here. Let's go ahead and switch over to our main scene. And actually, before I do that, and you know, we'll just go to this scene for now. We can go over the SPC Outlook. Oh, great. Laggy Streamlabs again, huh? Well, yeah, let's go ahead and dive right on in. We're going to be looking at the HRRR00Z today. You guys voted on a watch party live stream yesterday, so that's why we are live quite a bit later than normal. The HRRR is 10 frames in. It starts to form convection, or it should start to form convection around 29 frames in, so it still has a good 19 more frames to really render in before we start watching it come in frame by frame. But before that happens, let's go over the Storm Prediction Center Outlook. I want to try to start with something official here. And if we take a look at today's Outlook, we actually just have a general thunderstorm risk now. The slight risk, marginal risk, and severe thunderstorm watch all expired just moments ago at 8 p.m. Eastern, which was literally 3 minutes ago. So our severe threat has diminished significantly below anything notable. Tomorrow, we do have a slight risk for severe weather. There's a 5% chance for tornadoes. A live stream is extremely unlikely with this threat, as the severe weather will be very much in the overnight hours. Storms will most likely begin to fire around 2 a.m. Eastern tomorrow night and last throughout the morning hours. And probably throughout much of the morning hours. I don't think they will die off. I think they will start at 2 a.m. tomorrow night and then persist through all day Tuesday and all day into Wednesday as well. Damaging winds are at a 15% chance. Would not be shocked to see us get a 30% chance in here for damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour. The tornado threat, I don't think we will end up with a 10 sig for this day. It seems like storms are most likely going to end up growing upscale rapidly thanks to the strong cold front. Hail threat, also just a very large 5% chance for tomorrow, so not going to be anything notable hail-wise, up to an inch, inch and a half. Damaging winds, probably the biggest issue, up to about 70 miles per hour. Could see an upgrade for that. And then tornadoes, a few tornadoes. We could even get an isolated strong tornado, especially on the southern side, where we will have an opportunity for some semi-discrete supercells to fire into the overnight hours tomorrow night. If we go over into day 3, that's where our risk really begins to increase for significant severe weather. You can see they still have that enhanced risk for severe weather outlined. There's no moderate at this moment. We'll dive on into if this may or may not go moderate in just a bit. First, I want to see this really quick. Yeah, tomorrow is going to be a dry line. A dry line is going to fire the storms tomorrow. I probably said cold front because that's normally what it is in the plains in Dixie Alley. Especially for Dixie Alley, most of the time it's cold fronts, and that's something that's very unique about this thread. It's actually going to be a dry line setup out here in portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. The biggest change to this was the addition of a hatched risk. They've gone ahead and highlighted a significant chance for strong tornadoes, as well as damaging winds upwards of 80 miles per hour across portions of Louisiana and Mississippi. That wind threat may extend a little bit more north than what they currently have. The enhanced wouldn't be shocked if it goes more north, northeast, and maybe even slightly to the west as well. And I wouldn't be shocked to see the hatched area expanded as well. And our 10 SIG will probably be located over generally this area here. That's going to be, in my opinion, the greatest threat for tornadoes will be from about central Louisiana and then into eastern Louisiana, much of central southern Mississippi, into as far east as southwestern Alabama, extreme west central panhandle of Florida, as we go throughout the day and into the evening and eventually overnight hours of Tuesday. And then if we go to our day 4 outlook, this is Wednesday's threat for severe weather. Storm Prediction Center has still kept that very large slight risk for severe weather. Do not be surprised if they upgrade this to a enhanced risk day 3 across portions of extreme eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia, as far south as northeastern South Carolina. Most likely we will have the risk for damaging winds, and then with our secondary line, potentially the risk for a strong tornado or two, especially in central North Carolina and south central Virginia, around the 4 p.m. Eastern time frame going through Wednesday. If you go down here, there's a few very, very big key factors and overall strong wording from the SPC for a day 4 outlook out here in the mid-Atlantic. One of those stronger wording that I haven't seen often at all on a day 4 outlook out here in Virginia, North Carolina. They are calling for the potential of vigorous thunderstorm development during the afternoon east of the Blue Ridge. That's going to be with the cold front that pulls through after the dry line. And right now, the potential remains unclear on just how high in that threat may be. And that is because there's uncertainty on, if I can find it, just the destabilization overall behind the mid-level dry slot or underneath the mid-level dry slot. That's due to instability, cloud cover, and just overall not the best amount of forcing for the actual cold front itself. Also, the EML may be a little too strong for Wednesday. So what we're going to be dealing with is we're going to deal with a line of damaging winds through Wednesday morning and early Wednesday afternoon, going into Wednesday evening towards the 4 p.m. time frame. That's going to be when our strong tornado threat may kick in over portions of the Carolinas into Virginia as well. Currently, the thinking is with me chasing is I'm going to leave it South Central Virginia probably around the time frame of 10 a.m. and try to get into Central or Eastern North Carolina by 4 p.m. somewhere around this region by 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm really unsure on exactly where I'm going to go, because if I chase the morning threat, I may chase the morning threat. And if that's the case, I'll get up towards 7 a.m. and book it over near like Greenville, North Carolina, or around this area for that morning threat towards 1 p.m. and then hightail it back west for that potential strong tornado threat towards the 4 p.m. time frame in central NC. Right now, just going to be watching it closely, seeing which way it trends. But Wednesday definitely has the opportunity to be quite a more substantial threat for severe weather. And it is not often we deal with a strong tornado threat in North Carolina or Virginia, especially in very early March. So this is the threat that most people are going to be the most concerned about. Again, this is Tuesday's threat for severe weather. We have that large slight risk level 2 out of 5 for severe weather across a large portion, actually the entire state of Arkansas, entire state of Mississippi, most of Alabama, all of Louisiana, eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, southern Missouri inside that level 2 threat, and then a level 3 out of 5 threat in that enhanced risk across portions of Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and into central Mississippi. We'll dive in a little bit more in depth on this. I'll give you the most likely area of a moderate risk being added, and also my opinion on this enhanced risk and which way it may extend in just a few moments. Pulling up College of Dew page just to quickly check our 00Z's rendering. It's currently 33% done. It's at 16Z tomorrow. Convection probably won't fire until about 05Z or so Tuesday. So we still got quite a while to go here before that convection fires. About another 13 frames or so. We'll do a more in-depth dive with the 00Z HRRR. I don't think I'm going to do an in-depth dive just yet until the 0Z really gets going. So I'll look at North Carolina's threat until then, because I don't want to go over everything and then our new model run change absolutely every threat. I may do a dive into 18Z still. We'll just see. But just to let you know for Wednesday, so Wednesday, again, we're going to have this line that moves through Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. Wednesday morning, that's going to be the greatest threat for damaging winds across this area. Here's the biggest issue with this. No instability. There is no instability across this area in the morning hours of Wednesday. That should lead to a substantially lower wind threat. But as we go towards about 1 p.m., we're going to start seeing moisture and instability from the Atlantic lifted up into eastern North Carolina. So there's going to be a short window of tornado potential, maybe even a isolated strong tornado potential if we can get a prefrontal storm to fire somewhere in southeastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina towards the 1 p.m. time frame. And then the threat I'm watching way more is this little blob of convection right in here at 4 p.m. Wednesday. That's going to be what could end up becoming a potential strong tornado threat. The NAM model obviously is not the best with convection, so I think these models are underplaying convection at the moment. But you can see we're definitely going to have a large area of instability. Some models have shown up to 1,100 instability. It looks like this is backed off slightly to about 600 to 800 instability. The biggest limiting factor with this is probably going to be, it does matter about how quickly that line moves offshore of North Carolina, but I think the biggest factor is going to end up being dry air. If we go ahead and just take a quick sounding over what that was like just to the northwest of Raleigh. This is not as bad as what I've seen before. The dry air is more above the 700 millibar, but that's going to be what will most likely end up inhibiting a significant tornado threat in North Carolina. But either way, we have about 56 dews with 65 temps. A little bit of a bigger spread, but that will definitely do. Definitely lower on moisture, but that's okay. Out here in North Carolina, these are very rare. These are lapse rates. You do not see 7 lapse rates in North Carolina often whatsoever. And it is pretty common. We see near 1,000 instability, but this is like pretty much 1,000 plus instability at this point, especially if you take it back a frame towards the 1 p.m. time frame. So thermodynamics, I'm really not worried about. The only thing I'm really worried about with this threat in terms of what could underperform it is how fast this line moves. Is it going to move too slow, or is it not going to move, or is it going to move too fast? Because if it moves too fast, what that's going to end up doing is it's going to end up bringing the threat for severe weather through earlier, to the point where it may not have time to destabilize as much. If it slows down too much, the line may linger in North Carolina or Virginia to the point where it takes up instability, which is what the Euro has. The Euro has the line being the main threat for severe weather. If we look at the Euro here, this is a bit different because it shows 3 hours worth of precipitation, but you can see the front of the line is in eastern North Carolina at about 4 to 5 p.m. So the line would end up being your main threat for severe weather, as opposed to the GFS and the NAM model hinting towards more of the cold front behind the line being the main threat for severe weather. So still some uncertainty on exactly how potent that supercell threat may be. We're going to watch it very closely. Either way, I'm going to be going out to North Carolina. I don't see a way how I stay in Virginia. So I'll either be in just east of Rocky Mount, probably at about 1 p.m. Eastern, or if that supercell threat uptrends a lot, I'll be closer to Greensboro and Durham towards the 4 p.m. time frame on Wednesday. And that's just going to come down to just the timing of it and just waiting for our cam models to get closer. Lucky plans to chase, but it's going to have to be like perfect for him. The later it is, as long as it's after like 1, if it's after 1 p.m., he's going to chase. But if we end up with a threat in Eastern NC at 1 p.m., he's not going to be able to make that. Because he sleeps in. Most likely, even if it's a high risk for severe weather, this dude would still sleep past through most of the risk. Alright, HRRR is 21 frames in, so it's almost there to the point where we'll just watch it come in frame by frame, and then we'll discuss the severe threat from there, just watching the HRRR come in. The NAM and the NAM 3K, I believe, will be about at least 30 minutes later than the HRRR, if not more than an hour. Yes, April 16th, 2011, about 10 days before the super outbreak, we had a high risk in North Carolina that verified. We sure did. 30 sig tour. So the HRRR is going to finish rendering in relatively quickly. It will be completely in around 8:50. So another like 30-45 minutes before this fully renders, because it started rendering 27 minutes ago, and it is very close to halfway. So it will most likely end up being, I'd say, 8:59. I'd say 8:50, 9 o'clock Eastern. See if there's any difference here. So this was your 18Z HRRR versus your 0Z HRRR for the same time frame. It looks like the HRRR is coming in a little bit slower overall. Just slightly slower, which, if I'm not mistaken, lines up more with what the NAM was saying. Yeah, it definitely lines up. This is the old HRRR, though, right here. So the new HRRR is going to line up a bit better with what the NAM was saying. I don't know what the GFS... Well, yeah. It's almost time to stop using global models. Because we're starting to get cams in. So we are very close to stopping from using our global models. So 23 frames in. Like I said, Convection's going to fire around 05Z Tuesday morning. If we look here at our old HRRR, Convection should fire between 05, 06Z Tuesday morning. It's going to be a while, so I'm going to take that back, and we're going to go ahead and just discuss this threat for a bit. So for tomorrow's threat, it's going to be after the time frame of midnight. After midnight is when our storms will begin to fire in portions of Kansas and Oklahoma. And this may promote a strong tornado threat. You can see our ingredients are not going to be on the low side. The only main limiting factor here is the fact that our instability will be capped out significantly. And of course, as always, storm mode is going to be the biggest factor in terms of preventing that strong tornado threat very early Tuesday morning. So with any strong tornado threat that does develop, I believe it's going to end up being on either the far southern side of our 5%, or the far northwestern side of our 5%, either west of OKC or just northwest of the DFW, one or the other, depending on which way model runs trained, and we'll just see how that goes. But regardless, that capping should keep the tornado threat relatively on the lower side. It's still going to end up being something worth watching. We'll probably end up with a tornado watch, so we definitely could see a couple tornadoes from just west of Norman, Oklahoma, down through in around the DFW area, and then back up north just to the west of Tulsa, Oklahoma, for Tuesday morning's threat for severe weather. If we pull that into the valid outlook time frame of Tuesday, which is 12Z, we should see a large area of just really convection across portion of much of eastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas into eastern Texas. This most likely won't be severe right off the bat towards the 6-7 a.m. time frame, but as we get closer to lunchtime, closer to noon, that's when our threat for severe weather will begin to increase across a good chunk of the southern side of this convection line, especially out here in far western Louisiana and extreme eastern Texas towards that time frame of about 10 a.m. Eastern. Going closer to noon now, you can see that's when this line becomes slightly more organized. Definitely could have an embedded tornado threat in here. It should be relatively on the weaker side. A weak spin up tornado or two will definitely be possible in the morning hours of Tuesday. Can't fully rule out a strong tornado, especially on that far southern side if we could manage to see a more semi-discrete cell fire out there. But really, our strong tornado threat won't be Tuesday morning. It's going to be towards Tuesday evening and Tuesday late afternoon. Back out in this area here, which your HRRR does not show. So if we switch over to our NAM model, your peak tornado threat will most likely begin around 5 p.m. Eastern, right out in portions of eastern Louisiana into central and southern Mississippi. You'll see that continue through the 6 o'clock time frame, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9, 10 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to be where our greatest threat, potentially for a few strong tornadoes, will be possible. Now, the NAM model is definitely, it definitely has a lower end threat. I think it's because of lapse rates, from what I've heard. I didn't take a sounding on it earlier today. So this is going to be my first time reading a sounding, at least on the NAM 3K in the open warm sector. And yes, it is a lapse rates issue. It is definitely a lower level issue. That is for sure. It is definitely an issue with below the 700 millibars. And really all your instability is above 700 millibars. That's where all your instability is, right in there. It's not a lot of it by any means. So your surface instability and your 3-kilometer instability is definitely lacking in this area. And of course, that promotes their lapse rates to be down to 5.1. That's a little bit too low. That's a little bit too low for Dixie Alley. Normally, I look for at least 5.5 lapse rates in Dixie Alley. And then as we get towards more of like prime tornado season, I look for closer to 6 to 6.5. So if this raises up to 5.5, gets closer to 6, that will be better. Which will it? I don't know. I really do not know. We'll see what the HRRR says. The NAM may be over-convecting a little bit too much. We'll go back to your HRRR00Z. It is at 27 frames, so storm should begin in this area within the next 3 frames here. You can see those ingredients lining up right along that dry line. Right along that dry line in western Oklahoma. This is for, if I'm not mistaken, 10 p.m. tomorrow night. That's when storms will potentially begin to fire, but in my opinion, it's going to be later than that. I feel like it's going to be a midnight or later threat. See if they fired on this next one. Nope. That's 11 p.m. Eastern right there. Lapse rates and overconvection is the biggest fail mode for Tuesday's threat. Instability could also be a fail mode. And then, of course, also dry air not being completely eroded in these 500 millibar range. I don't think we will see a 10 sig over Oklahoma. That's my personal opinion. I wouldn't fully rule it out if we keep uptrending. It's definitely not impossible. But considering it's overnight and it's all going to come down to the cap busting, which would probably promote a more linear threat to begin with, more clustered, I would doubt it. You think a wider warm sector Tuesday? Really? Interesting. Oh, and there's some storms starting to fire right at midnight. But you can see how quickly those are going to grow up linear. I mean, pretty much right as they fire, they're already turning into clusters. So that's right at midnight. That, if I'm not mistaken, is a bit earlier. It's a whole 1 hour earlier than our 18C. And if we look at your dew points here, this doesn't show it too well, but you do have a dry line right there. That's your dry line. And then your cold front's right back in here. So your initiating boundary is actually a dry line. You can see this better on 18Z if we progress it further. That shows you much clearer that your cold front's back here and your dry line is somewhere generally in there. Dew point uptrend? I don't know. Let me see. That's 30 frames out. Eh. Looks relatively the same to me. Just a little bit more, just a little slower. A little more west. That's all I see. And there you go. There's 1 a.m. And you can see another little discrete cell HRRR has out there, southwest Oklahoma. It's going to be the first hour that these storms fire that could promote a very, very quick window of a strong tornado threat. A very small window. A very, very small and short window. It depends on what frame you're looking at, Ethan. The cold front on this frame is definitely here. If we go back to 00Z, your cold front is a little bit more west than that. Somewhere around there, generally. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. We've got 50 likes in here. We already hit our like goal for the briefing. We're going to be live for quite a while longer, as we're going to watch the entire 0Z HRRR render in. And I probably will end up staying for the, probably for the Nam and Nam 3K. I don't know how long those take to render in, though. Don't fully quote me on that, because they may take a little too long to render in. There is, what is that, 2 a.m. now? So that's midnight. It's 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Eastern. And you can see still firing, but they are very much clustered to linear. Let me do that for you. There you go. Fix your scene up a little bit more so you can see it better. So we'll see how this continues if we compare that to the 18Z. Because storms fired earlier on the 0Z model, they're actually ahead of the 18Z. Just slightly. Any instability or... well, wow. That is a full cap erosion at freaking 2 a.m. in the morning in western Oklahoma. That definitely wasn't as potent on the 18Z. Fully eroded on the 0Z, though. That is something. But you can see how quickly they grow upscale linear-wise. So damaging winds, couple spin-up tornadoes. Wouldn't fully rule out a strong tornado in the first hour of storms firing, but relatively it's going to be a damaging wind threat. That cold front dry line is very close at 3 a.m. This is 4 a.m. now. You see that dry line's going to start moving more ahead of your cold front. Storms fire in Texas, still very, very linear. How do we look on cap erosion there? Getting there. They grow really upscale, though. I mean, there's like... there's like just a couple of minutes where they are discrete, and then they're just immediately right. Look at that. These move northwest for a moment. They move northwest for just an hour, and then the dry line hits them, and they begin to move east. Wonder what initiates those storms there, because your dry line's more to the west, cold front's more to the west, and those storms just flop out of nowhere on the 0-0 model run. Let's look more north. Not much more north. Still linear, messy. Not really anything overly concerning. You could see by the time you get to the morning hours of Tuesday, this is getting to, I think, about 5 a.m. About 5 a.m. Eastern Tuesday morning now. Still getting some storms to fire just west of Dallas there, 5 a.m. Eastern. That's 4 a.m. local time. Still, tornado threat would be possible there. It's not going to be a high-end tornado threat by any means because of how linear and clustered it is. So you're looking at small hail, damaging winds, and a spin-up tornado or two will be possible. We'll see how that continues into the DFW. What are we looking at with the... yeah, I mean, really the dew points are like exactly the same. 0Z is just coming in slightly... Well, it was slower. Now it's actually sped up with the cold front. Really, the thing I'm most curious about is about the last 4 frames of the HRRR. That's going to be towards 20Z to 00Z, so from about 3 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. Those will be the frames I'm most curious about. See what it does with any supercells over south central Mississippi, far eastern Louisiana. Still continues with that tornado threat, damaging wind threat in and north of the DFW area. That easily could change by tomorrow. It could just show these storms being messy again. For instance, what it did with 18Z, it didn't show them nearly as strong as what they are now on the 0Z. So definitely not confident in a strong tornado threat out of this. Again, I wouldn't fully rule up a quick spin-up tornado, or rather a quick spin-up strong tornado here, because those storms do fire slightly discrete for the first hour or two along the dry line, just after midnight. I mean, 55 dew points, that's barely going to be worth severe weather. Anything less than that, and it's going to have to be in, like, Colorado or where you have higher terrain. 55-degree dew points is barely workable for severe weather. But if you're talking about like a widespread tornado threat or strong tornado threat, you're going to have to see those 60-plus dew points unless you're in Colorado. Right off the bat, I'm noticing the HRRR has slightly gotten rid of all that convection in eastern Texas. It's still there, but it's not as bad as what it was on the 18Z. I'm pretty sure... I'm pretty sure on the next 2 frames, it's going to increase that convection anyways. Cape downtrend. It just all moved west, and it definitely did downtrend across southeast Texas, for sure. So 0Z shows about between 750 to 850, whereas 18Z showed 1,100 to about 1,250. So definitely a big downtrend in the instability department in southeast Texas. Not really something I was expecting from the 0ZH to be honest with you. Yep, and there's that a bunch of overconvection in eastern Texas. So now we're into 8 a.m. Tuesday on the HRRR. Only 11 more frames left with the HRRR, which will get us to 00Z for Wednesday morning, technically Tuesday night. 00Z is 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central. See if the NAM's rendered at all. Nope. NAM models ain't even started yet. It's all gonna really, in terms of, like, if we're talking moderate risk, it's all gonna come down to what models show in this area for prefrontal convection. I do not see a moderate being needed at this point. I've hopped off of that moderate train ever since we got cams. I was either going to be more on the moderate train or less on the moderate train, depending on what cams showed, and I don't think they showed a moderate risk worthy event for Tuesday yet. Can't take a sounding on HRRR on College 2 page. I'll get one on Pivotal. However, I won't be able to show it. Let's go to Convection. There we go. I'm going to take one right in that warm sector. I took one right in here. So it's going to be convection contaminated. It looks really good. Except for the lapse rates. I just saw the lapse rates. 5.7. That is okay, but definitely not sufficient for a notable tornado threat. And then your 3 cape is up to 55, so you do have a little bit more instability towards the 700 millibar level in this area. Do I need to take one more to the east? Nope, that warm sector is so small. It's a very tiny warm sector. And look at all that over convection, man. Yikes. That is exactly how you get rid of a strong tornado threat in Dixie Alley right there. So far, looking good if you don't want tornadoes. So from a chaser standpoint, this would probably be pretty rough, but definitely definitely messy. But I believe the 18Z was even a little bit more organized at this point. So 0Z's coming in a little bit more sloppy here. And this is what we've been waiting for the last 5 days. The HRRR00Z, which is one of our more accurate model runs and our first main cam model and the best cam model we have. And coming in very messy, which I'm not too surprised about considering how much it's downtrended. I mean, ever since the SPC outlined it, it was uptrending for like 3 days straight. And then since the day 4 outlook, which was literally yesterday, it's just been a consistent downtrend for the last 24 to 36 hours. Which I'm definitely not upset about that, because this thing had some high-end potential. Especially with the trough-wise and just the overall kinematic standpoint. It definitely could have been one of the bigger outbreaks of the year. So, I will not complain at all. Yeah, but the RRFSA is not currently up, so it doesn't matter. That sucker's been down for 3 months. It should come back any day, though. Because they took it offline for winter, and meteorological spring began yesterday. Another sounding, I'm taking it on the EO PDS Tour sounding, you say. 6 kilometer lapse rate, so we're improving. 67 dew point, 70 Fahrenheit temps. This was taken, I just took this in this portion of the warm sector, right in here. 1,100 instability on this sounding. Like S tier hodograph. You really can't get much better than the hodograph that it shows. I wish I could show y'all, but it's a S tier hodograph. Still struggling with the lapse rates, and that's why these supercells aren't going to be mature. They're going to be more mini. There's going to be a lot of tiny supercells, and it's going to over-convect and make a big mess out of the environment. They're not necessarily crapvection. They're prefrontals that are messy. It's not necessarily crapvection, but it's just extremely messy. Very messy. Now you can see how far behind your cold front is, by the way. There's your cold front, and there's your dry line. Your cold front is a good 100 miles west from the main threat there. Definitely, in my opinion, it definitely seems like it's really just generally the same, if not maybe a little messier. I'm not seeing any like big uptrends at the moment. But from here on out, we did not see past this. Every frame from here on out is completely new. 18Z HRRR earlier stopped at 18Z Tuesday, and the 0Z is going to go 6 more frames after that. So we'll see what it shows. And like I said, after 20Z, from 20Z to 00Z, that's going to be when your tornado threat should peak. We'll see if this continues with a very sloppy line or if something fixes itself out here. That is a very large warm sector. Look at that. Huge warm sector. It's the tiniest little thing ever. At least instability-wise. Now, if we went to your dew points, I mean, even your dew points, that's still not really that big of a warm sector. Alright, there's your next frame fully new here. It's starting to fix it. You can see it's especially beginning to fix it in southeastern Arkansas into north central Louisiana. It has not fixed it in this area just yet. We'll see if that continues for the next... I can't do math. 5 frames. There you go. So that's your QLCS tornado threat and damaging wind threat right there. Ingredients won't be very high on that by any means. You can see very low end ingredients, but that's going to be your QLCS threat right there. I don't even know if the northern side is worth... Oh, there's your cold core setup right there. Jeez, you have like... What's lacking in that? Wind shears, definitely on the low side. You have like no wind shear with that. This is also your another. This is more of your primary cold core actually. Is that where better 3 cape is? No. There you go. There's your better 3 cape. That's interesting. Wait a second. Can I look at the GFS real quick? Yeah, your cold core setup's definitely more south, but... I swear I see a second low in here. Can I look at most? There is definitely a second low, like right there. Your primary closed low is here, but there's definitely a second low here. Or somewhere near there. Because the wind barbs are going crazy. Because you can see how these winds are funneling up like that. And they start funneling way up here. There's like 2 or 3 low pressures in this area. Very weird. Your primary one is definitely into Oklahoma. That is weird, man. Alright, back down south here. Alright, getting still starting to get fixed here, but it's so messy, man. 3 more frames left. This is your peak tornado threat now. It's still super messy. You don't have a lot of ingredients with those embedded supercells in west central Mississippi. You have very little ingredients. They are right on the northeast side of that warm sector. See what the sounding looks like here. What frame is this? Frame 45. Just barely in front of them. See what it looks like. 100 instability, 5 kilometer lapse rates, and a S tier hodograph. Your thermodynamics are just gone. They're just non-existent. All your instability is west. And nothing's firing there. You can see it. That's where your prime instability is, right in there. Nothing's firing. Further to the south, though, that's going to get more organized for sure. With the 2 frames left, this should get a lot more organized because that's slightly more into the warm sector. Still not the best. I mean, geez. Ooh. Ooh. Not fully hating those supercells to the north. As a chaser, I would probably choose that over Dixie Alley. That is not half bad at all. Low shear, decent instability, good 3 cape. Yeah, that is definitely something that I would probably end up chasing over Dixie Alley. Probably any day. There you go. There's your peak tornado threat. It's about as peak as it's gonna get. Oh man, such a messy mode. Ugh. Can't wait to stop tracking Dixie. Gracious, I'm going to take another sounding in front of this. See what it looks like. It should have better instability. 89 cape. Let me try a better spot. Maybe here, far southern Louisiana. Let's try far southern Louisiana, like south of New Orleans. 300 cape. 4.9 lapse rates. Jeez. Holy moly. I wouldn't even be surprised if they dropped the enhanced risk. They will probably keep it for wind, but don't be surprised if we wake up to a 5% tour and no 10 hatched. Because, man, last time I checked, 90 instability in the open warm sector in southeast Mississippi. Not really going to work. That's really not going to do much. And there's your last frame of the HRRR. And it ends very, very, very messy. Not even really a QLCS threat. It is a QLCS threat for, like, from the noon to 3 p.m. time frame. But then after that, it just all breaks up significantly. And it's a very broken I don't even know if I'd call it semi-discrete, just a very broken, messy, clustery, low instability mess. The only reason why these look like supercells is because of your kinematic profile. That is the only reason why, with your 800 0 to 3 kilometer SRH and your 4 to 500, even up to 600 0 to 1 kilometer SRH. That's the only reason why you have these storms looking like supercells. Instability is just not there. I mean, if we draw out where those supercells are, right there, and we overlay that with instability, you can see the only place that has some instability is the southern area. And even that's very limited. So there's a little pocket right in here where you may get about 800 to 1,000 instability, but supercells already moved through that area. So definitely not a crazy look there. Unless they keep the 10 sig or the hatched area, I'm definitely going to quit calling this Outbreak. What happened to the EML? It's still there. That's why you don't get a lot of convection out in front over in this area. Or well ahead of the line. You just get a lot of overconvection in Texas, where, let me see if you have an EML. Your EML's too high in Texas. You've got dry air almost to the 300 millibar. So you get a bunch of overconvection in eastern Texas, western Louisiana, and then that just translates to overconvection throughout the entire event. But there's not as nearly as potent of an EML as what it once was. On this frame right here, actually, let me get the exact frame. This frame 46, I pulled the sounding right here, and there is still a strong EML in place in that area. Towards the 650 millibar. There's still an EML there. So, we'll see what the SBC does tomorrow. I wouldn't be shocked if they downgrade the entire risk. Okay, let me go over here again. I'm going to take another sounding in southeast Mississippi, but this time on this frame. Yeah, that's when you have no EML. That's because your dry line's moving through. Very meh. And there's your NAM model already 15 frames in. NAM 3K 5 frames in. So, my takeaway on this is it has trended so messy to the point where this will probably not even end up being a solid tornado threat. This is barely a 5%. Glad to see you back in here, Jim. More like a 5. I don't even think it'd be a 5 sig, though. You know, like last year, we had a lot of threats that if storms did fire, they'd be significant. And I don't even think this would classify as that because it can't. It's too over convection. I doubt this guy even knows how to track weather. Your name's Josh's Weather, buddy. I doubt you even know how to track weather. I bet you don't even own a radar site. What do you say? Let me go up here and see what you've said. Nobody, I don't think anybody in this entire chat ever mentioned a monster threat for tornadoes in Kansas. Why is it over convection? Because the EML is weaker in eastern Texas. So what happens is in eastern Texas, all these thunderstorms begin to fire in East Texas. They merge in with the dry line, and the dry line carries all that over convection into Louisiana and Mississippi. And you can see eventually it tries to work that out to where it's not so bad of over convection by the 7 p.m. time frame. But by then, your instability has already died out, and it's too late by then. So, very messy. And that's just because you don't have a great EML in eastern Texas. Also, if we go ahead and pull this, I want to look at the trough itself. It's still a really good trough. It's still a good trough. Not nearly as good as what it looked like about 4 days ago or so. We'll keep watching it. I don't think the trough itself, I'm not sure if that's going to matter a bunch now because we've really locked in what the trough's going to do. I think it's going to be more of the trough's timing that we have to watch as opposed to its geometry, because the geometry obviously is already negatively tilted, so I don't feel like we're going to have to watch the trough to see if it goes back to positive or something. We're just going to watch the timing for the trough. He's probably some 12-year-old in his mom's basement fussing in weather chats. Thinking he knows what weather even is. He's probably not even old enough to be on YouTube. I want to go back up here more. I want to see if this dude said anything else in the chat before today. If not, we can just withhold, or actually hold that ban. First time in here, yeah, you just hold the ban. And he cussed 2 times too, so I'm good with him being banned. Especially when he comes in here like that. So, like I said, I mean, the trough, it's a really, really good trough. The timing's going to be something we have to watch closely. As well as, ooh, you know what? I just really realized that it's gotten rid of that double low. I don't know if I can go back more, but at one point these models were showing a transfer low pressure. Yeah, they don't show that nearly as much anymore. I just realized that. Because it used to show a low pressure here, which it obviously still does, but then as you go into very late Tuesday, it would show a second low in this area. Like 3 days ago, we had 2 lows. We had a low here, and then we had a low here. This low would die out, and this low would become the primary, which is no longer the case. So like I was mentioning, the trough itself, I don't see any crazy issues with the trough. I think this is really a big thermodynamic issue. I think the kinematics and the trough geometry, the trough itself is not the issue. The timing may be the issue. There's a chance the timing is a little bit too off here. It may overall be a too fast of a trough ejection. With the primary exit region beginning at 1 p.m. So it may be a little too fast of a trough ejection, but the trough itself is perfect. And then, like I said, the thermodynamics are just garbage. And the timing of the thermodynamics is terrible too. You know, your instability is like, your primary instability is a good 20 miles west of your supercells. As you can see there. Look at that. Look at that. So, yep, there you go. It's not even... I don't know. This isn't like a normal... The overconvection is definitely more of a normal Dixie event, but just the timing of it is unusual, Caden. The fact that the instability is so far misaligned with the dry line is ridiculous. That's really not something that's a Dixie issue. It's just weird as a whole. But the overconvection part of it, the higher end kinematics with lower end thermodynamics, yes, that's Dixie Alley. But the placement of those thermodynamics is just... it's just very weird. I think it's just storms run out of the warm sector. Yeah, I mean, maybe the dry line just moves too fast for the cold front. I guess that's what it is. Your cold front, or rather your dry line just moves way too fast. But even your primary dry line, look at that. You can tell. This is where your dry line is, right here. And then your cold front is back out here into Texas. I don't even know what's pushing that. I wonder what's even pushing that threat more eastward. Because see, look, even the NAM's better. The NAM has the dry line right here, very obvious. And then it has prefrontals moving up like this. Which makes a lot more sense. And those prefrontals just simply don't have the best instability, right? That makes a lot more sense. Than with the HRRR running whatever this is eastward. It's just not something that I've seen often. Especially from the HRRR. It's just very weird for me. It's really weird. We'll see what the 0Z NAM has. It's already 19 frames in. It's into Monday afternoon. HRRR is trolling right now. I honestly thought that was going to be fixed with the 0Z model, but it wasn't. So, okay, and you just think the storms are moving too quick? That's definitely possible. I mean, I would be I'm very curious on why the HRRR has it like this. I mean, the NAM doesn't seem to have that same issue. The NAM and the NAM 3K. The GFS... well, the GFS does have a slight issue with that, but not nearly as bad as the HRRR. Like I said here, I'll show you again. If we go to dew points, primary dry line, cold front is... I'll look at the WPC so that way I draw this correctly. Okay, well, they have the timing. They have the cold front being here. So that's where the It's where the WPC says the cold front is. Shoot, maybe that's the cold front pushing it. I swear the cold front's more west. Let me look at this wider. Okay, see, there's your cold front on the GFS. That's much easier to spot. The HRRR is high resolution, so it looks a bit funnier to the back, or to the west. But the main forcing is definitely the dry line. Then you have the cold front. And then obviously you have the warm front right in here, which is easier to spot from temperatures. So I think maybe the WPC might... they might have their cold front a little bit too fast. Here's the wrap model. I didn't even think about looking at that. So you can see the wrap model has those prefrontal cells firing right up in here. Your main dry line back there. And then your cold front is like directly... Oh, well, no, that's still back out there in eastern Texas. Oh, no, I'll have to look very closely tonight to see exactly where that cold front is, because it actually could be the cold front pushing it. The WPC may actually be right. I may just simply be rusty with tracking severe weather. Look at the dew points again. No. Low pressure is right here. Then you have your occluded front that goes up here, which turns on into your cold front. Right like that. It's normal. It's normal on the NAM. The NAM is normal. The wrap hazard, let's zoom out for the wrap. Where the heck is the low? Okay, there's the low. Up here. Well, that's a difference. Why did the wrap just go back like that? There you go. So there's the low for the wrap. The low for the NAM is well south of that. GFS is very far south. So that's what's screwing this up. And the WPC has the low in Kansas City at this time. Which is not, yeah, that's not far off. So there's a little bit of disagreement on where the low is Tuesday afternoon. Also how compact it is. You can see the NAM has a more broad and not very closed low there. Whereas the GFS has a much tightly closed low. And the wrap, it's kind of in the middle. It still has that quite tightly closed low. Definitely weird. Definitely weird. Because look at the difference between the wrap model, which barely has an organized cold front like anywhere, and the NAM, which has a very well-defined cold front, and the GFS, which has a sloppy cold front with a very easy-to-spot dry line. Wow, they are different. I didn't realize how different these models were. That's why I was struggling to figure out any type of agreement, because there's not much. So that's your big difference there. They're all different on the exact strength and exact placement and how closed off that low is. That's definitely going to be something I watch very closely tomorrow. Because that's a pretty good amount of disagreement. You can see, I mean, even just that tiny shift of the low being 50 miles to the south, that's what allowed your low pressure to be more well-defined on the HRRR, or rather the NAM, my bad. Let's see here. Let me go more north with this. Okay, how about even more north? So the HRRR does have that slightly better defined low. Kind of like the NAM. I'm sure he'll do a discussion on it tomorrow. I wish I could zoom out more. I think I see the cold front now on the HRRR. If I'm not mistaken completely, this is your cold front right in here. Let me look more into this. It's not well defined. This is definitely not your cold front, what I was saying before. I wish I could do a continental view with the HRRR. I can. I just realized I can. Give me the HRRR. There you go. Alright, see it? There you go. There's your low. There's your occluded front, which goes up somewhere up like to here. It's just a guess. Then here's your cold front there. And you also have your dry line, which is somewhere in here. What a setup! What the heck is this? What am I looking at? Oh, wait, what? Yo, even the WPC, they've got a cold front up here too. With a low back here with an occluded front that goes up into here that meets your other low and occluded front that then turns into your cold front that then turns into your warm sector. What in the world? Even the WPC has like the most complex setup I've seen with an upper kinematic pattern there. See what Ethan said here. Dude. This has to be one of the most insane setups I've tracked. In terms of 3 different lows all playing a role in it. Oh, I didn't even outline the low up here. By the way, if you didn't notice, there's another low up here that also turns into a warm front that goes down here like this. And then the cold front of this low is a cold front and warm front that goes up into Canada that meets another low pressure up in Ontario. Oh, and then apparently there's another dry line that goes back out this way with another cold front that goes back up over this way. Holy moly! Dude, hold on. Let me zoom out so you can see this completely. There you go. There's your whole setup. That's my forecast. That's my forecast for Tuesday. If you didn't know, the only place that could see severe weather out of this is really primarily in here. That's where the greatest tornado threat is. It's just a bunch of lines everywhere. You got a low up here with a dry line here, a cold front, warm front up here into another low that you can't even see in Canada, with a cold front going into this low pressure, with an occluded front that goes up into another low pressure, with a cold front that goes down here, extending with a dry line, warm front that goes here, with a dry line back out here, and a cold front going up into there. And I base this off of the HRRR and the WPC. gracious day. And then I bet if we switch this model run to the NAM, it's all going to change. Let's bring it out to the NAM. It's completely different. It's completely different. Holy moly, I've confused myself so bad. Oh my goodness, I have a headache. Look, just so you know I'm not wrong, this looks a lot cleaner than the HRRR was showing, because the HRRR had the low down here, so this occluded front actually went up like this into this low pressure and then back down like that. But there you go. Look at this. Low pressure, dry line, occluded front, low pressure, occluded front, warm front, cold front. Dry line would be somewhere in here. Low pressure, cold front, into a cold front, warm front, into a cold front, warm front, low pressure, warm front. There you go. This has gotta be one of the most confusing things I've ever seen. Oh my goodness, no wonder why there's so much uncertainty between the models. Oh my word. This is horrific. I've thrown myself off so much, man. Someone said, what am I saying in chat? I don't even know. That's the thing. Let's see. What? Ethan, that drawing is so far off in so many ways that you've thrown me off even more. Your cold front isn't even close like that. Wait, hold on, no. What do you say? Dry line in yellow, cold front in blue. Okay. It still throws me off so much. So what you're saying is that this right here is the dry line. So then what the heck is this part? And then you're saying your cold front goes back like this? And the occluded front, no, you call the specific front, goes up like that into your low. No, because your low's back down here, so then you have your occluded front right there. And then you have your warm front that goes up more north. Yeah, your warm front, the warm front part does make more sense. However, you've completely missed the second low pressure up in Minnesota. Yeah, let's look at the NAM. See the NAM. Oh, that is so much better. Look how much better that looks. That is so much more appealing. See, now that keeps your cold front and dry line together. And you know what? I've seen it now. That's way better. That is much easier to see. Now you can clearly tell that your... Wait, where is exactly where your low is so I don't screw this up? Okay, that's way better. Low pressure here. Warm front, cold front goes up into that other low somewhere in here. And then that warm front, cold front goes who knows where into Canada. I'm not looking at it. Then you have the cold front dry line back out in this area. The NAM is 50 billion times more easy to understand. Look at the last one. Okay, that's gotten a little bit confusing if you're talking about 12Z. Okay, yeah, see, that is definitely a cold front. Ethan, I'm not too sure. I see what you're talking about with this being a cold front in here, on the NAM model at least, but I'm not too sure about that being correct. That might be right. Every model is just completely different with the exact positioning of all your fronts. Did you say 500 millibar? Completely different? That is definitely not 500 millibar. There you go. Okay, your new age triple R. Wow. What in the world happened? Oh my goodness. Please let the uncertainty be gone tomorrow. That's actually not too bad. Ingredients-wise, that's actually not that bad. That's not the new NAM 3K. Oh my goodness, that's bad. Jeez. There's so much uncertainty, man. This thing could be downgraded to a slight risk. And I also wouldn't be surprised if it went the complete other way. But there's going to have to be a lot that changes with just the certainty part of things. That has to be the most confusing WPC graph I've ever seen. 3 different low pressures. And you've got 2 occluding fronts, 3 cold fronts, 3 warm fronts. Gracious. And the worst thing is, when you look at the NAM model, it's completely different. And then the HRRR is completely different. And then the WPC is completely different. What does all this mean? There's a lot of uncertainty on exactly where the fronts will set up. But overall, we're looking at a very messy threat for severe weather. Primarily, the threat will be damaging winds, brief spin-up tornadoes, and you can't fully rule out a strong tornado. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this ends up changing tomorrow as we get closer and certainty increases. Definitely be weather aware. There you go. In that enhanced risk area, I can show you this better. There's where you need to be weather aware. Those model runs just gave me a headache. Half of that, what I said, was probably wrong. But then I looked at the WPC, and I was like, wait, what is actually this confusing? Oh my word. And then Wednesday afternoon, everything combines. So you go from having 3 lows to just 1. Holy moly. I didn't even look at the euro. That's probably a whole nother story. Let me look at the temperatures on the euro. It's not that bad, actually. I don't know. It is actually pretty rough, especially as you get into Arkansas and Louisiana with exactly where your low pressure is. Or exactly where your cold front dry line is, my bad. Oh my goodness. This is like a mixture of everything. But it's more towards what the HRRR is saying with the cold front and dry line. Okay, yeah, I can clearly see where the cold front is. and where the warm front is on the Euro, and of course the dry line too, if I show you really quick. It's really easy to spot that your dry line is somewhere. It's definitely there, but I don't know where it goes from there. I'm not sure where it goes, how far north it goes, and then you have your cold front in there. This is 3-hour convection, so that's terrible. If we go up more, maybe we could tell. I can't tell where that dry line is off of dew points. Precipitation doesn't help. This system has had the weirdest amount of uncertainty, in my opinion. It has been ridiculous how much we've flip-flopped. Especially with just the general location of the low. And also how big the warm front's been and instability. I would love to see what Trey has to say about all this. It would probably make it sound so much less confusing. Hopefully it all works out tomorrow before Trey makes a video. Oh, yep. Just your casual negatively tilted trough with a, Jeez. Just a normal negative tilt. Nothing special about this one. I swear, if I have to deal with another one of this on March 13th and 14th, where we have these ridiculously uncertain setups. Dude, please do not put me through it again. I don't think I'm going to end up drawing all that out ever again. I'm not going to do that ever again because it's just going to confuse everybody. Oh, Trey is way smarter than me. I'll never be as smart as him. He's the best analysis person out there. Easily. My opinion, though. Dude. I don't ever want to see another bowling ball trough in my life. So confusing. And by the way, I've struggled with this off of the stream too, trying to forecast Virginia and North Carolina's threat. Don't think that it's just because I hopped on stream. Now all of a sudden I'm really confused. If Lucky were here, he'd tell you. We've been trying to figure out what our threat was the entire day. No, I'm not gonna get to Trey's level because I'm pretty sure he's a meteorologist. I don't plan on getting a degree. So I'll never get to his level. Look at the... Hold on, maybe that's not the case. Okay. I was about to show you big uncertainty, but never mind. It was just the wrong time frame. Alright, Nam's about to be in range for my neck of the woods. Let's see what the heck this shows. What I think Shreveport will get? Probably primarily damaging winds. And spin-up tornadoes could definitely be possible. Maybe even some small hail too, but I think your main threat will be winds. It did not confuse me. Brandon, you're just on a different level. Because it confused me. There's no way you followed along with what I was saying, because I couldn't even follow along with what I was saying. You're just on another planet, if that didn't confuse you. Let me see here. Yeah, Shreveport's main threat's definitely wind. What in the world? Was that there on the 18Z NAM? Oh, it was. Okay. Any timing difference here? It looks literally the same. Timing-wise. Like, legit the same. I'm looking in Central NC, by the way. What about with our dew points? No big change. I see the 60 dew points have gone a little southeast. NAM 3K, by the way, I didn't fully check down here. It just keeps it all messy. It keeps it all messy, which is probably because of how many stinking fronts we have happening in here. Hold on, I want to go more up here now. Okay, so there's your cold front. I see your cold front. But where the heck does that come from? Roll it back. At some point, that cold front and dry line meet. Right there. Right there, your cold front and dry line meet here. And you can see this is your cold front and dry line. Wow. Is there another low pressure involved in this? There's our main low. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Does this have two lows? Go to surface. There we go. There's one primary low. Good. It's so broad. So it's a closed low out here in south central Kansas at 1 p.m. And then it becomes quite broad across this area. And then as you get back to 0Z, it starts to close in quite significantly again. You can see it close in a lot towards 0Z. And I believe that's when your cold front becomes well more defined. You can see it there. Man. Yeah, so at some point your dry line and cold front combine here Wednesday evening. Somewhere around here, that dry line cold front combine. You can tell by the dew points. So you can see the dry line, dry line, dry line, dry line, and then it turns into a cold front around here. No kidding what the heck's going to happen up here. Alright, this actually isn't looking half bad. A little bit west on the instability here. Why is the ingredient so high in South Carolina with the line, though? That's crazy. Great. Then we get another warm front involved here Wednesday. Not bad. So 18Z line is into kind of east central North Carolina, which is a little bit slower than the 18Z NAM. What? Uh-oh, I think I might have to get up early. Where did that uptrend come from? Whoa, that's where it came from. Your instability really shot up. Interesting. Unfortunately, the NAM 3K won't reach this far. This is where the NAM 3K is going to end, so we won't be able to see the next frame. I highly doubt we will see a moderate risk. I highly, highly, highly doubt it. There we go. Next frame. Not bad at all. And you can see that's where your... Is this your cold front? What part is this? Okay, I believe... Don't quote me, but I believe that's part of your cold front there. And then you still have a dry line remnants, possibly, over here or something. We got another confusing part. This is what I've struggled with out in North Carolina. Because that is clearly a cold front right there. Very, very, very clearly. Very clearly a cold front, but I'm wondering what that is. It may be a dry line. It might switch back to a dry line because you can see here, watch that purple line, which is your dew points. So there's your cold front right in there. It keeps going and then it slows down. Your cold front seemingly slows down here. And it looks like something initiates or continues those thunderstorms. And you can see it gets messy too. So you have that cold front that is combined. Geez. So you start out with a dry line in Oklahoma. Then you go into a cold front dry line here. Then you go into a complete cold front here. Then you go still into a cold front, but another dry line. And then Wednesday, you have a dry line here with a cold front behind that. Oh, that initiates. That initiates quite well. You can see the difference in convection there. That cold front initiates pretty well, but it's pretty dang linear too. Maybe the confusing setup will pay off out in North Carolina. Because this thing switches. It switches between cold front, warm front multiple times. Because if we go back up here, see that low. You can see how the low increases and decreases in intensity quite frequently. And even shifts at some points. Let me go back over here. So that's your low, right? Right here. Yep. Zoom out more. Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is happening here. Look how much it changes Tuesday night into Wednesday. That's crazy. Just the overall structure of the low. Maybe a bit of a cold core threat up there in Ohio. A little bit more of a cold core threat up there. I cannot wait till the Storm Prediction Center, or rather the WPC, gets a little bit closer, and then they can show us every 6 hours worth of fronts, and this will become a lot easier. Because then we can just go off of the WPCs completely and quit looking at models for the fronts, which is confusing me so bad. I apologize for the confusion, because I know you guys are confused too. And if you've enjoyed this very confusing live stream, make sure you hit that like button. 13 likes away from 100 likes. And if you are new, consider hitting that subscribe button with a notification bell set to all. I promise this is one of the more confusing setups that we've had. I'm not this bad at weather analysis, I promise. Oh my goodness, I'd love to see Lucky try to figure this out. Are you kidding me? I would love to see him try to figure this out. Dude would be clueless. He would be completely clueless. Yeah, this is as far as our NAM 3K goes for now. It has a lot less instability. A significantly less amount of instability. We'll see if that changes tomorrow morning. It's a mixture of every stinking front we ever know. We've got a warm front, we have a cold front, we have a dry line, we have a cold front, warm front, and we have an occluding front with a Pacific front. We have every front. So many fronts. He's going live tomorrow. Lucky will be live tomorrow. I'll be live tomorrow, of course. We'll see if he can figure out what the setup looks like. You know what? I bet he probably will just ignore it, because that would have been the smarter thing to do here. He's probably going to end up just calling this whole thing the cold front and not mentioning a single dry line. Or he's going to call the entire thing the dry line. Either one or the other. He's going to be like, the dry line extends from almost Iowa all the way down into Louisiana. I'm intrigued to see what he's going to say tomorrow. I'm not going to give him any hints. No, I don't think you'll see a 10 sig tour. You can see the NAM 3K. Again, could have a strong tornado threat in the morning hours Tuesday near, or rather north of Dallas. And then we could have a very brief strong tornado threat just after midnight tomorrow night in western Oklahoma. But I don't think it will be enough to warrant a enhanced risk. Can we acknowledge how much more significant the line is on the NAM 3K compared to the HRRR? Look at the difference. HRRR versus NAM. It's completely different. Again, look at that. Holy moly, it's completely different. The NAM 3K has a much sharper cold front and dry line, and the HRRR does not. Holy cow. No, I don't think Central Oklahoma will be in a strong tour threat. I don't believe so. Okay, I wanted to check something there. So still not looking half bad on the NAM for my area by any means. I'll see which one I end up chasing, the dry line / cold front or the complete cold front. Hopefully as we get closer, models will start to agree on exactly what fronts we'll see here. Can't get any good soundings there. Look at the difference in the ingredients between the 0Z NAM and the 18Z GFS. There's a lot of uncertainty for these threats to be 3 to 4 days out. There's a lot of uncertainty. Normally, by now, we have just some small uncertainties. But this threat, like, the whole setup is uncertain. The whole entire cold front dry line, how they merge, the exact position of the low pressure. I mean, it's still all uncertain. All I know is that we'll have a risk for tornadoes. And most likely it's going to end up being a little lower on the tornado side of things. At least for a strong tornado threat. I don't think we'll see as notable of a strong tornado threat as what we expected. We'll see what these models look like tomorrow morning and see how much more confused I am. Let me check the... Okay. So yeah, that's your dry line. And then you have your initiating storms right there. So that's your dry line. Main dry line is there. I'm not looking at the dew points. I was pretty close. Main dry line is here. And this is an initiating boundary that is carrying these supercells on the HRRR right here. So that's your dry line right there, and wherever it goes with the dew points, and then you keep that initiating boundary right there. Yeah. Okay. I see that on the HRRR now. But my next question is, where's the cold front? If I had to assume, the cold front would be back here. So you've got a cold front dry line that goes into your cold front. And if we look at the HRRR's precipitation, you have that initiating boundary that goes down here that initiated thunderstorms in eastern Texas due to the weaker EML. So there you go. That's what I got out of the setup on the HRRR. Because you can see these storms fire, you know, pretty well in front of the dry line. So that's just a boundary, an initiating boundary by itself right there. That carries on. Taking me a hot minute to figure out exactly what's happened here. You can see the cold front is right at my cursor, moving just like this. But the HRRR is definitely different. Compared to like the NAM, which the NAM has that sharper cold front, sharper dry line. And then the initiating boundary. I finally figured it out. Let's go. It's not as confusing. Let's go. We did it, guys. We did it. It was an initiating boundary that we were missing that keeps these supercells going. And the dry line outruns the cold front. We finally figured it out. It's not as confusing now. And you can see your dry line's going to meet more north. So you have the cold front. If we take the... I don't think I can... I can't really move it more north. But your dry line ends in like somewhere up there into Missouri. And then your cold front comes down right here. Something like that. And extends probably more to the southwest. And then goes out into more of south central Texas. And then your dry line continues down in here. And then probably would meet up with your cold front at the very bottom. Then you have an initiating boundary from storms that fire due to that weak EML. Right in here. It's still complicated. It's not a basic setup. It is a very complicated setup. And then if you look at your instability is really limited to that initiating boundary in between your dry line and that initiating boundary thanks to the convection. Then you're going to have those prefrontal supercells that try to fire because of those confluence bands. That's going to continue in with the mess. Dude, I'm still learning meteorology. I'm no professional. I don't have a degree. So there's still things in the weather world that I don't know, and I just learned it today. So there you go. Yeah, it's known for having freaking 20 different boundaries at the same spot. But hey, at least we learned. So now we know that for future references. Whenever we have another stupidly triple low, triple cold front, double dry line, occluding front, initiating boundary setup in Dixie Alley. So then that means that this is more... Okay, I see it. So this is more of... This is your dry line here. Then you have your... Still your initiating boundary in that area from the overconvection, or rather, yeah, the overconvection back in... whatchamacallit. And then you have your... In eastern Texas. And then you have your cold front that's right in there. And obviously these are going to connect. You could see where they connect right there. Right there is where they connect. And I bet your best ingredients are going to be limited in between this blue line and this second pink line. That's actually a lot more widespread than I was thinking. This is the NAM, though. If we go to, like, the GFS, there you go. It's more limited. And you know what? I forgot our warm front. I forgot our warm front in all of this. Your warm front is... Let's see if I can spot it. We're at 21Z Wednesday. So if we use our dew points here, your warm front is going to be somewhere in here. It would be a much smaller warm front at that point. Actually, hold the phone. Hold the phone. Nope, that's wrong. I apologize. Your warm front is up here. Your warm front is way up there. Yep, see the difference with the cooler air and warmer air. That is definitely your warm front, way up there. Jeez. So it's definitely still complicated. And then, of course, your cold front goes up into your ultimate low pressure right there. So you have 3 different boundaries to choose from. You could choose this one, which is definitely going to be your damaging wind threat, weak, smaller, low wind tornado threat. The middle boundary, which is probably not going to initiate anything. Yeah, not really. It's not really going to initiate much. Yeah, and then you have your cold front, which is going to be your possible strong tor threat later down the line for Wednesday. And you can see that does initiate thunderstorms there. That's not new NAM. There you go. So you can see that cold front initiates thunderstorms. And then your leftover boundary still initiates thunderstorms. And then that dry line, which is right in there, doesn't really initiate anything. Where does that dry line go to? Oh, okay, so your dry line just ends up merging with your cold front as they move, yeah, as they move offshore of North Carolina. I got it. And your warm front is going to slowly lift northward with time. You can see it with these temperatures. Dew points are easier to see. This kind of around that purple line is your That's your warm front. You can see it's going to lift northward with time until eventually it goes up into Canada. Man, what a crazy setup. And ultimately, it leads to more of a meh setup. Not really even that big of a severe weather setup. At least for the far southern U.S. It might end up bringing a better threat for severe weather in Virginia, North Carolina, but that's going to come down to the cold front. So North Carolina, that's exactly, it's very complicated. That's why me and Lucky are just going to keep waiting until the HRRR comes in. But really your two primary options are chase the initiating boundary that started way back in Texas, which is primarily, that's primarily right where I drew, right there. Hold on a second. Let me zoom this out. Where does that come from? Okay, so that comes from your dry line, which merges with... Holy moly. Okay, so your initiating boundary and dry line actually combine. See that? They combine right over the Appalachians. I see that now that we're more zoomed out. So you do not have 3 boundaries. You have 2. You have your dry line here and your cold front here. So your dry line goes up like that, and then your cold front back down like this, and then your warm front way back up here. Cold front keeps going up into that low pressure, which in this case is located way over there. I see that now. And so that's pushing all those storms eastward. So you really have your cold front threat right in here, which in eastern North Carolina, northeastern South Carolina, southeastern Virginia, that's going to be mainly damaging winds. Spin up tornado or 2 will be possible. And then your highest threat will come from the actual cold front back here, where we could see supercells fire off in this area towards the 3 to 6 or 7 p.m. time frame. So you have 2 different targets. And until we get closer, I can't really tell you which one I'm going to go for. I don't know if I'm going to go for that dry line and then the cold front or just the cold front. 06Z HRRR came in. I think that's... hold on, I got to think. Let's look, actually. So this is 11 p.m. midnight 1. Going to be about 2. It'd be right about 2 a.m. It depends on the timing of it. Then, yep, you could still see. Yeah, there's your dry line still. I don't see that as well into Pennsylvania as I do with the NAM. This is the GFS, by the way. So you can make out your dry lines generally in here, but then after here, I lose it. I can't see it past there. And then you have your low pressure somewhere. Where the heck's your low? Where's your low go? Oh, a very broad low. Not even nearly as intense as what the NAM had. The NAM had a way more well-defined closed low here. GFS does not. It has a very large, broad low. So, oh, let's go back to that right time frame. So yeah, there's your dry line, and then your cold front comes down from that very broad low way up here and extends back down this way. And that dry line would meet somewhere. I can't see the dry line. It would meet somewhere. I can't tell where it goes into Pennsylvania like I can on the NAM. Very complicated setup in terms of, well, it's not too complicated once you really dive into it. Now that I've really spent a solid 2 hours sitting here just looking at the model runs, I've started to understand it more. So, yeah, we'll keep watching it. I do want to... Crap, where'd I put it? Give me just a moment. I want to do something really quick. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Want to track March 13th. One thread at a time. Only one thread at a time. Go back over here. There we go. It's not too often we see a good dry line in Dixie Alley. So that's why I wasn't very used to figuring out what it was. I mean, only yesterday did I figure out it was actually a dry line. Have a great night, Proxy. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, Crazy Rider. Yeah, this setup is very complex. But like I said, starting to understand it now that I've just been looking at it for 2 whole hours. So many moving parts to it. So my personal opinion, I don't see this being upgraded to a higher risk. Right now, it's an enhanced 3 out of 5. I don't think we will see that moderate 4 out of 5 anymore. Just over convection. It looks like it's all going to over convect thanks to that initiating boundary. So this boundary continues to push eastward ahead of that primary dry line. And eventually it escapes the best environment. And so you really don't see anything fire on it. But once that dry line catches up to it, and then finally your dry line merges with that initiating boundary, then cells start to fire more, which by then it's too late. You can see there's no instability. I would not be surprised if we got a downgrade. Dry line is a boundary between moist and dry, a dry environment. So, for instance, on this side of the dry line, you have 60 to 65 dew points, whereas on the west side, you have 50 to 55, so it's drier. This is not a very strong dry line. We've seen really strong dry lines where it goes from like 65 dew points to 20 within 5 miles, so not a very strong dry line there. Shreveport is... your enhanced risk is most likely for wind. They may keep the enhanced risk for wind. That is actually something, for some reason, I didn't think of. But talking tornado-wise, I don't think we'll see an enhanced risk for that. But we will probably keep the enhanced risk for wind. Specifically in this general area here. That's where the greatest wind threat is, which I don't know how much of that's in the... Yeah, most of that's in the enhanced. You see about pretty much all of that is inside the enhanced risk. And that's where our greatest wind threat will be. I'm going to go over to composite. There we go. Wait for this slow thing to load. So if we pull this all the way out again, ooh, looks a little rough when you look at it on Radar Omega. It looks stronger. Ooh, man, I don't know about that, y'all. This looks a lot better when you're looking at it closer. All those embedded supercells. Ooh, I don't know about that. I wouldn't be so confident on them dropping the 10 hatched. But you can definitely see the greatest wind threat here. Even goes a little bit more north. Your main wind threat is all in this whole area here. See that strong line QLCS? The lacking of cape is on the far east side. So if we go back to instability, I don't know about that. That actually that looks better now that I'm looking at it closely. If we go back to College of Do page, you can see they look a lot smaller and not as concerning. This might actually not be as big of a downtrend per se is what I was thinking. Let's look at the NAM, but remember the NAM typically over-convex and is not really good with supercells. Yeah, the NAM is definitely a lot messier. But still, you got that really, really strong QLCS. They're not going to drop the enhanced for wind, that's for sure. If anything, they may actually push it northward. Because you can see that line is really strong to the north, and the HRRR also showed that. Even though instability is weak and very low, just that dry line being your initiation there for thunderstorms is going to really help the line become more significant. It's not on the cold front, so I can't really say just the sheer strength of the cold front, because that's not... The cold front's not really strong at this point. It's more of the dry line that is strong enough to carry that wind threat. We'll keep a really close eye on that. That might actually be something to consider, is just the fact that we have so much wind shear, even if we only have 250, 500 instability, we still might end up with a more notable tornado threat, just because of how much those winds are turning with height. Supercells are rotating thunderstorms. So supercells produce the most tornadoes. Whereas if you have this is a line. This is a linear line. We call it a linear mode. So that's not going to promote a big tornado threat. But then as you get down here, see how the line breaks up? You have these more individual cells. These are supercells embedded inside the line. And they're also more semi-discrete, which means they're not as linear. They're not as line-looking. And then way further south, you can see these are trying to be all by themselves, but there's a lot of them, so they're still semi-discrete. And they also have this bean shape, which means winds are turning with height. So they all have these beans, the bean shape to them. All of them. All of them. All of them got beans. And if you look at your... I don't know if we can look at wind shear. Oh, well, yeah, there you go. There's your bulk shear. You could see all the shear in this whole area. We've got a large area of wind shear. If we could look at helicity, that'd show it better. Helicity really shows where the wind shear is strongest. Ah, there you go. Jeez. I think we're good on wind shear, y'all. Holy cow. How much is that? Yep. Definitely not a limiting factor for wind shear. If you don't know, this is, what kilometer is this? So I could tell you. Okay, so this is 0 to 3 kilometer helicity. So we're looking for typically 150 to 200 or more is sufficient for tornadoes. We've got 900 to 1,000 in some spots. Lower level helicity, which is the 0 to 1 kilometer, that we typically look for 150 plus, which if we go to 0 to 1 kilometer, you can see we are well over 150 plus everywhere. So that will help increase the strong tornado threat. However, as I mentioned before, we're going to have so many of these storms that they're all going to compete for the same environment and they're going to fight each other over it. And that might be what limits our overall high-end tornado potential for Tuesday. And then we also have instability too, which if we look at that. Okay, that's not right. Stop capping. The warm sector ain't going to be that big. There you go. So there's your instability. Typically, we look for at least 500 instability. But in terms of a notable strong tornado threat, you really need 1,000 plus, which is more focused on that dry line. So this is where your supercells are, right in here. Let's switch back to that instability. You can see you're right at that 500 to 1,000. That's actually not that bad. The more I look at the HRRR, the more I realize it's not too bad for a tornado threat. The NAM 3K is pretty rough. What time is this sounding? Okay. I don't think there's really anything else to go over here. I'll bring y'all back over to College Due page. Look at the NAM 3K again. Again, this is very messy. This one's a lot more messy. Which I can tell you why. One reason. Look how much better instability is on the HRRR. Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter. They posted a sounding over North Carolina. It was at 18Z, which is 1 p.m. I have another monitor, so if you ever hear me go off topic, it means I'm looking at something on another monitor. I don't think we pull the sounding on the NAM. So let's pull a sounding on the NAM in the kind of open warm sector. It's not really too open. It's really being used. So let's switch. Oh, well, we don't have to switch. We're on the right one. I don't like being flashbanged, so let's go back over here for a second. There you go. Okay, there you go. Like I said, kinematics not an issue. So what this means is, at the top right, this means if we get storms to fire, they're going to look like this. So they're going to have a supercell shape to them. So that's not an issue. Wind shear is not an issue at all, which you can also see if we zoom in a lot here. We have 631 surface to kilometer wind shear. Instability is right on that edge. It's just 3 instability away from me considering it a sufficient amount of cape for at least a tornado threat. Maybe not a strong tornado threat. Now, this is bad. This is your surface to 3 kilometer lapse rates, and that's only 4.8. That's very, very low. What that means is you don't have a lot of, you don't have a good amount of lower level instability. Also, let me check this. I'll tell you in just a second. I'll show you exactly what it means. I'm going to pull this up. Okay. Yeah, back over to lapse rates, though. So it also means that you're not having a lot of temperature change. You can barely even see our temperature line. Our temperature line is right in there. And see how it's relatively straight? It's not really changing much. Whereas when we get towards the mid-levels, you see your temperature is changing more. It's cooling with height. You also have a very strong lower level EML. So that could prevent supercells from really increasing. So what they're going to do is they're going to try to form. You're going to have clouds that form in that general area. And they're going to try to grow upscale. And then they're just going to hit a dry environment and not be able to get through that. And with the lower level instability and lapse rates being so low, I doubt we'll see many notable cells fire in this area. And if they are, they will be mini. They're going to be mini supercells as in small. But you have great varying. You can see winds are definitely turning with height, as well as with that photograph. You can tell they are definitely turning. You can see the varying here. So they're... Ooh, that's not even straight just yet. So they really start... They really turn. They are really turning and a lot of veering with height. This red here does mean that we are in a bit of a convection contamination area. So that means storms are already ongoing in this environment. So this sounding is not going to perfectly represent the environment we'll see. I mean, you just have no temperature change in this region. If we go to, like, let's go to North Carolina. I bet North Carolina will end up with better lapse rates. So let's go here in this area. Is that good enough? Let me see. Oh, nope, that's going to be convection contaminated. Let's go a little bit more east. Close all this out. That's still not the best, but you can see your temperature does at least change with height. It's changing a lot more here. It's not like straight like this. It's not directly straight. It's changing at least somewhat, which means you have you still have a bit of lower end lapse rates, but it's not terrible. A 6.5 is not terrible. You also do not have a strong EML, so storms will try to explode, and then they might struggle a bit, but most likely they'll be able to get through that little bit of dry air. Also, these storms are going to be linear, which means it really doesn't matter. They're just going to go right through that environment anyways and not struggle because of that dry air. So definitely a good damaging wind setup and brief spin-up tornado threat in eastern NC, southeastern Virginia at or after 1 p.m. Eastern. Don't know if I'm going to be able to make it that far east that fast. But if CAM models are aggressive like this NAM model or the GFS model, it's probably going to be worth getting up at 7 a.m. and making the 3.5-hour trip over there. You're back. Oh, great. Catman's back. Where is that located? Okay. So, see, that's still in a sheared environment. Right there. Still in a sheared environment. Lower level jet. Still there. Right on the edge of it, though. Very, very close. Let's take another sounding here. This would be the evening threat that has an opportunity for more discrete cells. Oh, wow. Hold on. Can I pull that on the 18Z NAM as well? Yeah, look at this. Look at the 18Z. The 18Z had a lot of dry air beneath the 500 millibar. Whereas the 0Z, it really doesn't have any dry air until you get towards the 400, maybe 450 millibar range. Still could be a convection contaminated sounding, though, as you could see from the red. So that's not terrible at all. I want to pull another one from the 0Z model again. This time, I'm going to go back a frame, and I'm going to pull it closer to where I am. So, we'll go just south of Danville. Not get blinded again, gracious day. Okay, see, there's more of your dry air issue. You do have that still. Towards the 700 millibar. So again, storms are going to try to fire. They're going to hit that dry air, and they're just going to die right off. You won't get any cloud tops higher than that. But look at all that temperature change with height. So look at your lapse rates. If I go down, you are up to 7.3 to 7.9. So you've got very much sufficient lapse rates, very sufficient instability. A little on the lower side, but for North Carolina, still really good for wind shear. You still have that veering, still change in direction with height. So it's not that bad. Ooh, I like the photograph. So what this means is storms would fire more like this. That could promote a more clustery mode. Maybe more linear. I really don't think that would be linear. That's still more supercellular of a degree. It's not at our perfect degree, which I can't remember what the perfect degree is. I think it's like 72 or something. That's at 66. So I think this would definitely promote more of a lower precipitation threat. Oh, no, your lower relative humidity is still 87%. That's still going to be pretty up there. But precipitable water is 0.75, so it wouldn't be 2 LP, but it wouldn't be 2 HP. It'd be right in the middle. So, yeah, there would definitely be a good supercell threat right here between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. After 6 p.m., probably going to grow upscale and move eastward. So definitely going to watch that region on Wednesday. And again, that's right along your cold front. Go to temperatures and dew points. You can see, again, your cold front. Low pressure is very broad, somewhere back in here. Somewhere. With your cold front extending down like this. And then you still have that dry line right in there. And your initiating boundary moved a lot. It's still generally very close. And these two would merge. That dry line initiating boundary, those would merge off the coastline of North Carolina towards 03Z, which is about 10 p.m. So definitely leaning way more towards this threat as opposed to this one. The last thing I want to do, the very last thing I want to do, is go into Eastern NC at 4 p.m., and then not be able to get back for a discrete supercell threat near Greensboro. That is the very last thing I want to do on Wednesday. I would rather go for this threat and have it underperform significantly than go for this threat and end up missing whatever comes out of this supercell threat over here. Let's go back down here. You can see when that dry line and initiating boundary catch up, which will be somewhere over south central Alabama, that's when the supercell threat increases on your NAM and NAM3K. So you get more supercell looking cells there. As opposed to if we go back, it's all messy. And this would happen towards the 1 a.m., 2 a.m. time frame. Oh, another question I had. Cloud cover. Still pretty bad on the NAM. How about the GFS? GFS is way better for no cloud cover. Does the wrap have cloud cover? I don't see it. Well, we'll just wait for our higher resolution models to render in for it tomorrow. I'll wake up and check the NAM 3K. I believe the NAM 12K is, or the NAM 3K 12Z is going to be a little bit on the later side. I think I'll be able to see that towards like 11:30 a.m. noon or so. Let's see here. Let's go back over to Oklahoma. See how those storms fire again. Just comparing both of our 0Z data here. Also note something very much noteworthy here. Look at the orientation of the line. On the NAM, it is pointed to the northeast to southwest. And see what that looks like on the HRRR. See how the HRRR is slightly more north to south? If that were to happen, we would definitely see some spin-up tornadoes being possible in this area between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. Eastern Tuesday morning. See that line? It's more north to south orientated on the HRRR. That's something to pay attention to as well. That's going to help increase our tornado threat if our line is more north to south as opposed to northeast to southwest. And if we go here to Tuesday, you can see your line is relatively northeast. It's kind of a mixture. But it's relatively northeast to southwest. It's not dead north pretty much anywhere, but like central Arkansas is dead north to south. However, you've got a lot of convection, so that's very embedded. So I doubt that will actually be much of a tornado threat. With these cells, HRRR definitely more north to south orientation for some of them, but not for all. You can see they go right back to northeast to southwest orientation as they as you go into the very late evening hours. We'll just see what models say tomorrow. That's all we can do is wait for newer data. But right now, as it stands, I think they will keep the enhanced risk. Definitely for wind. Probably for a 10 sig tour on the southern side as well. They will probably keep a 10 sig tour, introduce a 10 sig tour on that side of your risk with a enhanced risk for wind on the northern side up here. Which they already do have that enhanced risk, and you can see if we go back to it. I don't think I showed you guys this. Here's the... I showed this at the beginning. This is the probabilistic outlook. And you can see they have a hatched risk. So they do have a hatched risk there. That could be for both wind and tornadoes, or just wind, or just tornadoes. I think it's going to end up being for both. And I also think it will be pushed more to the south-southeast. And I wouldn't be surprised if they increase the hatched risk more north for damaging winds either. But overall, I don't think we'll see a big change with this outlook. I do think the enhanced could expand in quite a few ways. I think it's going to expand in multiple directions. But I do not believe we'll see any major changes like the addition of a higher categorical risk or a lower categorical risk, and this being downgraded. Don't see a downgrade here. Let's go back to the HRRR again. How far does 02Z go out? 3 p.m. Just out of curiosity. Is this any different? Nah. It's like the same. Sometimes, right after the primary HRRR model runs render in, which is every 6 hours, they go out 48 hours. Sometimes the one that directly follows it ends up uptrending or downtrending. Which that does seem to be a case for some areas, actually. Oh, no, never mind. I thought it was slowing down a little bit and pushing moisture a little bit more north, but never mind. It does have instability the slightest more north on 02Z compared to 00Z, but it's not like a big difference. But all right, we're still going to stay live for a bit longer here, but just to give you a full takeaway, because I know we've had some confusing points in this live stream. If you are anywhere in the yellow or the red areas, that's where the severe weather threat will be the greatest. We're looking at a couple tornadoes, damaging winds potentially as high as 80 miles per hour, especially in that hatched red area. A strong tornado or two will be possible, especially in that red hatched area. And some small hail will also be possible in most of this area. That brown region, primarily, we're looking at damaging winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour, especially on the far northern side. We could also see a spin-up tornado threat up here. However, confidence in that being anything more than a low-end tornado threat is extremely low, so I'm not too worried about that at this moment. But the greatest risk is definitely going to be focused over Shreveport, pointing northeast to southeast. This whole area here will definitely be in the greatest risk for severe weather. And I wouldn't be surprised if that does get pushed a little more north. I wouldn't be shocked if our enhanced risk looks more like this tomorrow morning, where we have it a little bit more to the north and a little bit more to the south. Also, again, that hatched risk area, I think that could be pulled northward for wind and southward for tornadoes. We'll see what the SPC does tomorrow. It just depends on what they think's going to happen with these model run trends and overall what model runs we see tomorrow, uptrend or downtrend. I don't think that yellow area will change much. We could see a small extension to the north and to the east for wind, but I think it would be a very small extension, and the marginal risk, we might see that extended slightly eastward into more of northeast Missouri. I haven't really looked at that too much. Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if they do shift that marginal risk in the brown a little bit more northeast. I don't know how far northeast, but I wouldn't be surprised with it. Just for the potential of some damaging winds or a brief spin-up tornado can't be fully ruled out with that low pressure as it pulls through this area. I think we've gone over everything, as we're getting close to the 3-hour mark, which is not exactly the quick live stream I had planned today, to be honest with you. I didn't really plan for a 3-hour stream. Sometimes we don't even do these 3-hour live streams for enhanced risks for coverage, so, I mean, depending on how Tuesday plays out, we may only do a 3-hour live stream. Unless it looks very significant. I planned for a quick 1-hour live stream, Jim. Yeah. But there was just a lot to get through and a lot of analysis, and I don't regret it one bit. Because now I know what to expect more for my area, and also the weird amount of boundaries we are seeing. So we're currently at 02Z on the HRRR, so it's going to be a minimum of 4 more hours. So 4 hours from 11 p.m. Eastern will probably be when we see the 06ZH triple R rendering. I didn't stream today's threat because it didn't warrant an urgent stream. We had one tornado warning. I watched it closely. It fell apart quickly, and then that was it. We had a few smaller, lower-end severes. We did have one supercell that produced some larger hail. That was... where was it? It was near, I believe, this area where we saw a funnel cloud and some slightly larger hail. And then the tornado warning was up towards... I know it was somewhere in here. Somewhere in here, I know we had a tornado warning. I think I'm too far south. It was somewhere in here. Southwest Oklahoma. I almost went live, but I knew that tornado warning wouldn't last long. Because it was an embedded area of rotation in a line, in a cluster of storms. I told Lucky, because I was on call with him today, I said if there's a confirmed warning or 2 or more tornado warnings, I'll do an urgent stream. Oh, I forgot about that. I always forget about this radar hole. Look at this. I'm trying to find the right area to draw it out at. Look at this radar hole, all in here. I always forget about it. And there's even, actually, it goes a little bit more south, too. It's this whole region in here has a radar hole. A little too close to Memphis's radar. Radars cover about, what is it? Like about, for really good radar coverage, it's 50 miles. But they cover a normally usable data is 75 miles. Which is there, so. I did draw a little too close to Memphis there. But yeah, if you did enjoy the stream, we're not ending just yet. We are going to get close to it, though, here in a couple minutes. We'll start concluding at the top of the hour. So if you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. It's greatly appreciated. Also wanted to say I appreciate the support on the tornado season forecast. It's doing very well. Within the first, I believe within the first, actually, I'll just look. Now I can tell you instead of guessing. So it took just 32 hours. It only took 32 hours to pass last year's tornado season forecast in view count. So I appreciate you guys for watching it. And all the new subscribers who joined from it too. Because we got almost 20 new subscribers from that one video, which is definitely up there with some of the higher numbers I've seen in terms of a subscriber count from a single video. No leaving allowed. Well, if you want me to be alive and chase Wednesday, I probably should leave. But I'm not going to leave just yet. I'll still be here for another good, like, 18 minutes before I start concluding. Tomorrow, I'm very confident I'll be live for another briefing. I will probably end up keeping tomorrow's briefing actually brief. Because we won't be live for 0Z data to come in. So we'll probably be live from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. or so Eastern time tomorrow. Tuesday, I can't tell you when we'll be live. I just know I'll be live sometime Tuesday. The threat begins in the early morning hours. So I'm going to try to go live for the peak tornado activity. There's probably going to be a few tornado warnings that I end up missing and not being able to cover, especially if any are in the early morning hours or in the afternoon hours. I typically don't like to stream before, I don't like to stream before 1 p.m. So I'm going to try to push the live stream as late as I can Tuesday. But there's a very high chance I'll be live near 4 p.m. I'm not exactly sure when. We'll just wait and see what model runs show when we get closer. And then Wednesday, I know I'll be live storm chasing eventually. I can't tell you exactly when, because I'm not too sure if we're going to go after that morning threat, which is seemingly less likely at this point, but it's still possible that we go after the morning threat, be it far eastern North Carolina at 1 p.m. And if not, then we'll go for the supercell threat towards 3 p.m. near Greensboro. Thoughts on March 12th through the 14th or 15th? There's going to be the chance for a severe storm or two. I don't know. I might be hyping it up too much. But I think we have a chance for severe weather on that time frame. Why can't I find... Oh, I spelled it wrong. Dumb me. Jeez. There we go. Yeah, we'll definitely have the opportunity for a severe storm or two between the 13th through the 16th. But again, I might be hyping it a little too much. Well, we'll see. The closer we get, the more we'll know. It's just a little too far out to talk about. It is almost close enough to where we can really start talking about it. Depending on what day, though. It looks like the biggest signal is on the 14th. And that is a Friday. So for that, it is a little bit, just a little bit too far out. We're still 290 some hours out. The GFS really shifted on the time frame today, so we'll see if that shifts back. But that's why you don't want to use deterministic model runs. Go for ensembles. Long Island, if you're talking about the northeastern U.S., no. Let me see. I'm looking at the GFS ensembles really quick. Yeah, here you go. GFS ensembles, supercell composite. And look at this. So here's the 4th. You can see the signal we have for the 4th, right? Obviously, it's a signal. But you can see how low in the colors are. And we still have seen an enhanced risk out of this. Look at the time frame after the 12th. Or after the 11th. Look at some of the ensembles that light up here. Some of them are very aggressive. Some of them are extremely aggressive. If I'm not mistaken, almost every single one of them has a severe day. So at the top, the severe day is very minimal, but it looks to be the 14th. Second one is definitely the 14th. Third one is the 15th. Let's see. This one is definitely both days, 14th, 15th. This one is definitely the 14th, 14th. This one's more of the 13th. So it's like every single one of these has a severe day. This one, not nearly as much, but most of these have severe days on all these ensembles. We'll be here for another 30 minutes if I plot out each one of them. It'll take forever. But every single one has a severe day. Just some are more significant, and the timing of it is different through much of them. Let me check this again. Going back to the GFS. Actually, no, NAM. I'm definitely leaning a lot more towards the supercell threat for Wednesday. More towards Central NC. Now, what about Oklahoma? Yeah. I saw some people on Twitter saying Oklahoma's threat's uptrending for tornadoes. The NAM 3K definitely is a little more aggressive with the tornado threat. More semi-discrete cells, but we'll keep an eye on it just in case. Also wanted to show you guys the... Actually, I haven't actually looked at it. Let's look at the official forecast for snow for the next 72 hours. Because some of these areas in Colorado could pick up to about 10 inches of snow. And then in Nebraska, we could see up to about 6. And then there's some areas in Minnesota that could pick up to 6. And same for northwest Wisconsin. North central Wisconsin could get a little bit more closer to 9. But we will actually have somewhat of a winter storm threat with this. The greatest threat is definitely going to be out in this area here. And it's kind of going to skip over you guys out there in Nebraska, southeast South Dakota, west central Iowa. It's really going to skip over you and move more towards this area in here. Let's see. Do you think the enhanced risk will grow further northwest? Maybe. I'm not as confident in northwest, but I think we could see it more north. Like I said, I think we could see more of an enhanced risk like this. Most of that for wind. Most of this would be for wind, and then the expansion down here would probably be for SIG tours. How's Oklahoma looking? Eastern Oklahoma, not looking that bad. If we go over to your model runs here. Back this way. So, I'd say damaging winds, very heavy rain, and maybe a brief spin-up tornado. Tuesday morning's the biggest threat. But it's really not that high end of a threat by any means. Personally, I think you'll just end up with heavy rain Tuesday morning. That's what I'm thinking. What a crazy setup, though. In terms of being complex. Not in terms of significant severe weather. We'll see what happens, though. See what the SPC goes with. That's when they'll issue their tornado threats and probabilities. So we'll definitely do a live stream tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Right around there. I don't know if we'll go longer than 7 p.m. That'll just be something that I determine tomorrow. Like I said, Tuesday, I'll be live at some point, but I'm not too sure exactly when. And now we wait till the end of the stream. We'll start concluding in about 7 minutes. I know there's still a lot of you guys watching. I really appreciate that. But I've ran out of stuff to talk about, so I'm going to end up ending. But before you go, it's always appreciated if you want to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, or share the channel with your family, friends, social media. It's always appreciated. Like I said, we'll be back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Can't stay live all day, especially with limited information and things to talk about. Now, if it's a big risk for severe weather, Yeah, we'll definitely end up streaming longer. But right now, for Tuesday's threat, this is an enhanced risk on this channel that requires a live stream of at least 3 hours, being the minimum. Most of the enhanced risks that perform, we end up being live for 6 hours or so. And then if it does get upgraded to a moderate, that requires a minimum of 4 hours as well. Of course, that's just guessing. Some risks underperform, and then 3 hours for an enhanced turns into 1 or 2. And then some risks overperform for enhanced risks, so the 3 hours turn into 9. So it's just a guess. The worst severe weather will definitely be in western Alabama. You're looking at like this region here has the best chance for severe weather. 70-mile-per-hour winds and few tornadoes, maybe even an isolated strong tornado will be possible. The rest of Alabama, far northern Alabama, is really just going to be damaging winds, brief, weak spin-up tornadoes. And then extreme eastern Alabama could see a very quick threat for a spin-up tornado or two, primarily 50 to 60-mile-per-hour winds. Arkansas, most of Arkansas will see significant severe weather. I mean, this whole area of Arkansas, I'm thinking, will be upgraded to an enhanced risk for damaging winds. 70 to 80-mile-per-hour winds will be possible. A couple spin-up tornadoes will be possible. I don't think a strong tornado threat will be a possibility up here. Instability should be too low. And then for western Arkansas, that damaging wind threat would be a lot more minimal. So if you are, say, if you're near Fort Smith, that's closer to 60-mile-an-hour winds, maybe a spin-up tornado. Closer towards like Jonesboro, Little Rock, up towards Harrison, 70 to 80-mile-per-hour winds, spin-up tornadoes. I don't think that strong tornado threat will go that far north. But all right, we're getting really, really close to the end. Again, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you can, leave a like on the live stream on your way out. We more than doubled our like goal of 50 likes today. We got up to almost 120. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, all the mods for modding chat. And yeah, again, just I'll go over the SBC outlooks just so you know to be ready for. So for tomorrow, our primary threat will be overnight tomorrow. We could see some spin-up tornadoes, damaging winds, and very small hail, especially in the slight risk. Can't fully rule out an isolated strong tornado in western Oklahoma, as well as just to the north of the DFW area if we get semi-discrete storms to fire after the midnight time frame tomorrow night. You can see the tornado threat, according to the SBC, will be maximized from Dallas to OKC. Wouldn't be shocked if this gets expanded more to the northwest. Day 3, that risk expands significantly. Goes all the way from almost Tulsa with the slight risk almost down towards Dallas, back down towards well east of Houston, through all of Louisiana, all of Mississippi, much of Alabama, western Tennessee, all of Arkansas, southern Missouri, southeastern Kansas in that slight risk. And then the enhanced risk, which I do believe that enhanced will be expanded northward as well as southeastward. It could even be pushed slightly northeastward, but the big expansion I think will happen northward and southeastward. Damaging winds, depending on where you are in that enhanced risk. The northern side, damaging winds of 70 to 80. The southern side has a better chance of seeing those 80-mile-per-hour winds. And as well as on the southern side, you've got a better opportunity for strong tornadoes in this area. Hail shouldn't be a big concern. We could see some hailstones up to 2 inches in diameter, but it won't be a very large concern. And that's your SPC outlooks. Today got downgraded to a general thunderstorm risk, just to show you that really quick. So just some isolated thunderstorms with these storms that are moving. Where are y'all moving at? Northeast, east-northeast. And there you go. Will you be okay underground in Arkansas? Yeah. Or is that like a town name? Is that like a town name or something? Am I missing it? But just be weather aware. You'll be perfectly fine. Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and get the loop up. We're going to start ending here. Again, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, from about 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. Again, if you can, on your way out, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe with the notification bell set to all so you know when I go live or upload a video. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's live stream. Like I said, 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. It might be a little longer than that. We'll just see. And also share this stream and channel with the family, friends, social media. It's greatly appreciated. If you are just now tuning in, you can always go back to the first 30 minutes of so of the live stream. That's when we went over the severe threat the most. Also in the middle, too, when the 00ZHRRR came in, we really went over the severe threat through the entire near 3-hour live stream. We only got a little bit quieter towards the last 10 minutes once I ran out of things to talk about. But really mentioned a lot of severe weather through the whole stream. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, thank you mods from on chat. Thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. You're very welcome to go watch my tornado season forecast that I uploaded, 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. And I will see you guys again in tomorrow's live stream we will be live at 6 p.m. Eastern, from about 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. I will catch you guys in tomorrow's live stream. Stay safe. Watch the severe weather. Have a great rest of your Sunday night. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch severe weather. Thank you, mods for mod chat, and everyone for tuning in. Have a